Hello, and welcome to Red Dragon Gaming. This week, as promised, we have bringing Ascension. Ascension, as I said, is a deck building game where everybody starts with the same deck. This is different from Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon or a game like that, where in those games you do build decks, and the deck you build is important to the game. But it is not the same type of thing. In a deck building game like Ascension, like Legendary, like a number of other games, there's a lot of games that have this mechanic. I don't know if Ascension's the first one or not. It's just the one I know best. But everybody starts with the same deck. In this case, you start with a 10-card deck. In that 10-card deck, there are 8 apprentices and 2 militia. And from that 8-card deck, you will shuffle it up and you will draw a 5-card hand. On your turn, you will play your cards. Apprentices give you runes. Militia give you power. And you spend your runes and your power to either acquire additional cards from the center of the board, or up here where the mystics and heavy infantry are, or you'll use the power to defeat monsters. When you acquire a new card, it goes to the discard pile. At the end of your turn, the cards you played go to your discard pile, and then you draw a new 5-card hand. When your deck is empty, you shuffle your discard pile into your deck. So as you can see, while playing the game, you are building the deck. The actual gameplay is about building the deck. It's not a thing you do before the game, it is a thing you do during the game. You build the deck with the various cards, which allows you to get more runes so you can buy even better cards. Get more power so you can defeat even more powerful monsters. The numbers on the cards here, this is the original game. They range from single rune cost cards all the way up to, I think the largest one is an 8 rune cost. Monsters range anywhere from 3 to 8 as well. Ascension has a number of standalone expansions and smaller expansions that add new rule mechanics and new types of cards, new ways for the cards to interact, that sort of thing. This is the original base game. In the original base game, there are only 4 factions. They have 4. Each card, except for monsters. Monsters are not in a faction, but all of the cards that can go in your deck are one of 4 factions. And there are interactions. Certain cards may make other cards of that faction cheaper. Certain cards may trigger and give you an extra ability if you also play another card of that faction. There are constructs which you put into play and they stay in play and they do something every turn. The Mechana faction is really big in constructs. They have a lot of constructs, and a lot of their constructs are all about getting more constructs, which gets you more stuff. The end goal of the game is you are earning honor. Honor is represented by the little colored jewels. And also, each card has an honor value to it, meaning that at the end of the game, you add up all the honor values of all of the cards in your deck, and you add that to the honor you have in the little jewels, which you earn from defeating monsters. And whoever has the highest honor wins, which means you can win by going all in on heavy infantries and cards that defeat monsters, and then beat up a bunch of monsters and get all of the honor in gems. Or you can get few gems and fight few monsters and actually spend a lot of your time buying new cards and building up a really big deck with a lot of really good cards in it, because if the cards have high enough value, that could be worth more than the opponent's. The game is played until all of the honor gems are gone. You set the number of honor gems depending on a couple of factors, the number of players being one, and the length of game you want to play. The rulebook has suggested number of honor. So if you're playing 2 players, I don't remember what the number is, but we'll say it's 60 honor gems. And then if you want to play a longer game, put 80 out, put 100 out. If you want to play a shorter game, only put out 40, because the game is played until all of those are gone. And then you tally up, and whoever wins whoever has the biggest number wins. It's a really simple game, but the strategies in it are really complex, especially when you get into some of the later expansions and stuff. One of the newest ones added a day-night cycle to the game, depending on the cards in the center row, which were randomly drawn. They've got one where monsters are in factions, and that triggers different things. They've added additional side decks that have special purposes and interact with special cards. A lot of different options in Ascension. It's, like I said, really easy to play. You can pick up, play it. You can teach a new person how to do it in minutes. But to get really, really good at it requires a lot of in-depth strategy, a lot of knowing the cards, knowing the interactions of the cards, understanding the likelihood of certain cards that come up. Because if you go all in on a strategy full of power and monster defeating, but the center row never gets any monsters, all that keeps flipping up are regular heroes and constructs. So no monsters come up. The best you're going to be able to do is defeat the cultist. And the cultist gives you 1 honor for every 2 power you spend. So that's not the best. It's going to be a lot better to defeat monsters in the middle, but if they don't come up, you can't beat them. Same goes the other route. You go all in with rune-generating cards, but then the only things popping up in the middle are monsters. You can't do a lot with your rune-generating cards other than buy more mystics and heavy infantry. So you kind of have to learn the balance of the game. And, you know, the original has a slightly different balance than any of the additional expansions. You can combine the various expansions. So you can get the newest one, and you can combine all the cards together with the original here and play. It works just fine, but it is going to change that balance. So you are going to end up having a different feel, a different style, different techniques will work because, hey, this deck has a lot of construct cards. So going in on that construct mechana thing might be a good idea. Or, hey, this deck doesn't really have a lot. In the grand scheme of things. It's a 5,000 card deck because we mixed everything together, but there's only 50 constructs worth getting it. Well, you're not going to get a lot of those. So maybe going in on that mechana strategy, getting all those mechana constructs isn't going to be as useful. So you just got to learn the game, learn the feel of the deck, as it were. I mean, you could probably sit down and statistically, okay, this is how often this type of hero comes up, and this is... That doesn't sound fun, though. If you think it's fun, though, go for it. It'll probably give you an edge in the game over my version of I've just played a lot of this game. So I have a feel of the types of cards. There are certain cards in this deck I refuse to play. Every time I do draw or I do buy them and I put them in my deck over the course of the game, when they come up, I dread it coming up. And if you ever have a card come up that you're just like, oh my God, why do I have this card? Yeah, why do you have that card? You bought it and put it in the deck. And if you never are excited to see it, you probably made a poor choice. There's a number of cards in the original game here that I just loathe. So yeah, that's Ascension. Like I said, simple game, still a lot of fun. I encourage a lot of people to play it. We will have a version of Ascension for sale, and of course we can special order in any of the versions you want, whether we're going to have the original or one of the expansions or something like that. We really haven't decided, but we will have Ascension in the store for sale. It's going to be fantastic. I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy it. So next week, of course, is going to be the first week in May, and as I promised a few weeks ago, May is role-playing month. We're just going to talk exclusively about role-playing games. There's a lot of different role-playing games out there. Of course, the first one we're going to start with is Dungeons & Dragons. We will talk about the new Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It's been out for a few years. I will probably get sidetracked into a little bit of D&D history because I love D&D. I've been playing for 20-plus years now. But so we're going to talk about D&D first, and then we will talk about other systems. Shadowrun, maybe. Hackmaster is another one of my favorites. We'll probably talk about that one at some point in time. But yeah, we're going to spend the entire month of May, all 4 or 5 Fridays in May, talking about a different role-playing game. I'll show off some of the cool accessories I have, maybe show some minis on screen or whatever, and talk about different role-playing games. It's going to be a lot of fun. We think May is going to be great. I love role-playing. My partners love role-playing. We know a lot of our customers love role-playing. So tune in, check that out. I'll see you next week.